No, not for nothing, but I know exactly what he's going through after they drove my daughter out of town. You know, it took 2 years for them to really drive her away. But once that happened, you know, I feel like I lost my daughter because of them. They're predators, and they pick on people who they know they can pick on and get down. That's what they do. And they insistently pick and pick and pick and pick and bully and bully and bully. And they get paid for bullying.
Okay, so I heard about an event in which there was some abuse against Roger. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and also tell us who you are?
I'm Linda Pion, his mother, and they stopped this car with a girl driving. Said she was going 42 in a 25-mile zone, and she told me later she was not, and they all said that she wasn't because it's bumper to bumper with construction in Newport, and they had them get all out because they could smell marijuana in there. And so they searched the car, and he had his dog in the back seat with him, and they got out, and then they asked him if his dog was violent, and he said he could be. And so they said, you get back in the car. So he did, and apparently the girl got in the car in the driver's seat, and then they told him he had to get back out because they had a arrest warrant for him for not doing the rest of his community service. And so he went to get out, and they grabbed him by the arm here and squeezed him so hard that there was fingerprints, black and blue fingerprints, on his arm. And he was trying to hold his dog back with this arm because they had hold of him trying to pull him out. And anyways, the girl had to take the dog and hold the dog back, and when they got him out, they threw him on the ground, and they took the knee, and they hit him in the head like this, I was told.
Stomped his head?
Stomped his head, that's what I was told. And
gave him a concussion and called the ambulance.
Well, then they handcuffed him, and I guess they, in a sitting position, threw him up against the car, and he couldn't stay sitting, and he couldn't talk anymore. And they finally called the ambulance to come get him, and I went to the hospital to see what was going on. And he was just laying there. One cop was asking him questions, and he didn't know a lot of the stuff that was going on. He said, I can't remember, and stuff like that.
He was incoherent after they stomped on his head.
Yes, and the doctor had come in and said he had a concussion. Well, he didn't remember some stuff, because, you know. So I asked the cop what happened, and he told me pretty much they stopped her for speeding. The smell of marijuana, got him out, had him get back in because of the dog, and then they said he had an arrest warrant, and he took the back of the front seat and threw it hard forward. And then he got out of the car, is what the cop said. He got out of the car, and then he plunged at the cop. And he said, I don't know why he did that, because he's never done that before, he said. When I've ever stopped him, we've always been on good terms, and he's never done that before. I said, well, that's bullshit. Why would he do it now? Didn't make sense to me. And then the other day, the girl told me that she was in the car in the driver's seat, so he couldn't push that forward because she was in that seat. And he hurt his back. They did injury to his back, they did injury to his head. He had sand and gravel and dirt all over his face, in his ear, and down his chest. He lifted his arm when we were talking to him, and Amanda was there, and that's when we saw the black and blue fingerprints all over him. And this shoulder was red, this elbow was red, and but we didn't know about the back sores and stuff, cuts, until he got out of, he was in jail for 5 days, and he got out and he showed it to us, his injuries on his back.
They didn't give him his meds while he was in.
And they didn't give him his meds. The last 2 days he was there, they just kept saying, well, we don't have them, or something like that. And he has to have them meds every day, and they didn't give them to him. And apparently, the guards were hitting him and pushing him around while he was in there.
After he was arrested, they're abusing him in jail.
Yes. Yes, that's what he told the lawyer. So
Thank you. What we're talking about is Roger's history with the police. Do you feel like he's been harassed, or do you feel like they've kind of singled him out, or how do you feel about police treatment
They singled him out for a long, long time.
I could tell you a name, and it's probably on file.
Oh, there's the cops in front of us here.
There he is again.
Film him.
Whoa, Armin.
Film him.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Film him.
Yeah, I got him.
Nice.
So they picked on Roger for a long time.
For years they've picked on him and wouldn't leave him alone. And, you know, and he'd feel good about himself and starting to get himself together and have a purpose and stuff. And then they were constantly getting after him again over nothing. And even if they followed him, it seemed like everywhere he went, they were there. And that discouraged him. And it is discouraging. And it's hard. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, a person wants freedom. They don't want to be pushed around and followed.
And he was going by the law and everything and all that stuff just so they'd leave him alone. And he, you know, and for a while he wasn't even thinking about them or nothing. But they constantly would go by him on the same road. Even when we lived on the farm in Troy, they'd still go on that road a lot of times or all the way around. And you knew they were after him. They singled him out. I mean, other people, they could be speeding and they just still go after Roger. I don't know. It's discouraging.
Thank you.